Caught my fiancée bringing her ex to our anniversary dinner. So I walked out and called a lawyer, had the group chat proof, found the firm card receipt, and played her basically free voice memo in mediation, and paused the renovation deposit, and her firm put her on leave, and went no contact. I'm going to build a full 15-25-minute script around your exact subtopic. Then I'll append a fresh used ledger JSON with all rotating elements recorded, and no extra fluff. The email subject line hit my eyes like a slap. Anniversary dinner, table for 3 confirmed. I stared at it while the coffee maker hissed, and the kitchen still smelled like lemon dish soap. Our place in Doylestown had that early morning quiet, the dehumidifier humming in the hallway and a stack of unopened mail leaning against a bowl of dog treats we never used. I told myself it had to be a mistake. I am 39, and I inspect elevators for a living. I spend my days in metal shafts and dusty machine rooms, listening for the wrong rattle and looking for the one bolt that can ruin everything. When something is unsafe, I put a red tag on it and shut it down. I never thought I'd have to do that in my own life. Mara was 37, a CPA at a mid-sized accounting firm in Yardley. She talked about rules the way some people talk about weather, like it was always around and you respected it. We had been living together for a year, engaged for 3 months, and we were supposed to sign our final paperwork for a townhouse renovation in New Hope the very next week. The deposit was due by Monday, no excuses. My phone buzzed while I was on a job in an old community center near Lambertville. I was in the service closet beside an elevator motor, the air warm and oily, my flashlight beam catching little hairs of dust floating like snow. The text was from Mara. Hey, I invited Ezra to our anniversary dinner tonight. I want you two to meet. My stomach tightened so hard I had to lean my shoulder against the concrete wall. It felt like the floor dropped 1 inch, just enough to make you dizzy. I read it again, slower, like the words might change. They didn't. I texted back, "Your ex Ezra," she replied with a smiling emoji like this was a cute surprise. Yes. Please don't make this weird. That was my first warning. When someone tells you not to make it weird, it usually means they already did. When I got home, Mara was in the bedroom trying on earrings in the mirror. She had that bright, sweet tone she used when she wanted something to go smoothly. "Hey you," she said, like nothing was on fire. I held up my phone. "What is this about Ezra coming tonight?" She didn't even turn around at first. "It's just dinner. We're adults." I took a slow breath. "Mara, it's our anniversary." She turned, still smiling, but her eyes were sharp. "I want you two to meet so I can finally decide who I should choose." For a second, I honestly thought I misheard her. I waited for a laugh. I waited for her to say she was joking. Instead, she started fixing her necklace like she was organizing her thoughts. "Decide," I repeated. My voice sounded small in my own ears. She shrugged like she was talking about paint colors. "I need to see the vibe in the same room. You deserve clarity too." That was confrontation 1. I asked, and she answered like it was reasonable. A practical piece of advice right here, because I learned it the hard way. If someone turns your relationship into a contest, do not audition. A relationship is not a game show. If you stay and play along, you teach them you can be scored. Mara walked past me and kissed my cheek. "Just be cool," she said softly, sweet again. One dinner, then we move forward. I watched her pull her blazer on. I watched her check her lipstick in the hallway mirror. I watched her pick up her purse like she had already chosen how the night would go. And I felt something inside me start to loosen, like a bolt that won't hold. We drove separately because she said she had to stop by the office first. That alone made my hands sweat on the steering wheel. Our street was lined with bare winter trees, and the sky was that flat February gray that makes everything feel tired. I kept thinking about Monday and the deposit, and the townhouse and the boxes we'd already bought. At the restaurant in New Hope, the hostess led me to a small table near a brick wall. There was a candle and 2 menus already set. I sat down and tried to swallow the lump in my throat. Then the hostess returned with a 3rd menu. My phone buzzed again. A group text. Mara, we're parking now. Ezra's with me. Be nice. Ezra, hey man, thanks for being open to this. I stared at the screen. That was the communication proof, right there, bright as day. She had made a group chat for my anniversary dinner. Like we were planning a team project. The door opened and I saw them. Mara walked in first, confident, smiling, her hand lightly touching Ezra's elbow like she was guiding him. Ezra was tall and dressed too well for a random Thursday. He had that polished look, like his job involved lights, stages, and attention. Later I'd learn he was a touring lighting designer who bounced between venues and festivals. They sat down, and Mara didn't even ease into it. She leaned forward, hands folded, and said it again, clear as a bell. I want you two to meet so I can finally decide who I should choose. The words landed on the table like a dirty plate. Ezra blinked, like he wasn't sure if this was real. I looked at Mara and saw no shame at all, only curiosity, like she was watching a science experiment. I stood up so fast my chair scraped the floor. Every head near us turned. I looked at Mara and said, "Let me help you decide," and I walked out of the restaurant. The cold air outside hit my face like water. My chest felt too tight for my ribs. I made it to the sidewalk and kept walking, not even sure where I was going. 5 minutes later, I heard footsteps behind me. "Hey," a man called out. "Wait," I turned. Ezra jogged up, breath showing in the air. He held his hands up. "I'm not here to fight you," I stared at him. "Then why are you out here?" He swallowed and looked back toward the restaurant window. Because I didn't know she was going to say it like that. I thought this was, I don't know, closure, a mature dinner, not a draft pick. The way he said draft pick made me almost laugh, but it came out as a bitter exhale. The streetlights reflected on wet pavement and the river wind cut through my jacket. Ezra shook his head. "She texted me last week. She said she needed to compare feelings before she made a final choice. I told her I'd meet. I didn't think she'd do it on your anniversary." That was the first time the night turned in a different direction. I expected the ex to be the villain. Instead, he looked sick to his stomach. He added quieter, "Man, if someone made me compete like this, I'd be done too." I watched his eyes. They weren't smug. They were tired. He took his phone out, showed me his screen, then put it away. "She's texting me already. I'm not answering. I'm going home." He backed away like he didn't want to step into my space. "For what it's worth," he said, "I'm sorry." Then he walked off into the night. I got into my car and sat there with my hands on the wheel, not turning the key. My phone kept buzzing. "Mara, where did you go? Mara, don't embarrass me. Mara, Ezra says you left. Seriously, Mara, answer me." She texted both of us all night. I could tell because my phone kept lighting up with the group chat. I didn't respond once. Ezra didn't either. Here's practical advice moment number 2. When someone tries to pull you into chaos, silence is not weakness. Silence is a boundary. The more you explain, the more they twist it. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stop feeding the fire. I drove home to our quiet house and slept on the couch with a hoodie over my face. The next morning, the sun was pale and weak, and the house felt like it belonged to strangers. Mara came downstairs like she was stepping onto a stage. She acted soft at first. "I didn't sleep," she said, sitting on the edge of the chair. "I kept thinking you'd come back." I didn't answer. I just stared at the knot in the wood floor near the coffee table. She tried again, sweet voice, careful words. "I needed to see you both. It's not cruel. It's honest." I finally looked at her. "Honest would have been breaking up with me before you set up a competition." Her face tightened. "You're making it sound worse than it was." That was the beginning of confrontation, too. I pushed, and she flipped it. I kept my voice steady. "What did you expect to happen at that table?" She leaned back and crossed her arms. Her tone went from friendly to sharp. "I expected you to be confident. I expected you to show me you can handle adult situations without throwing a tantrum." "A tantrum," I repeated, calm but cold. She pointed at me like she was doing a presentation. "You walked out. You proved my fear. You get insecure and bail." There it was. The trick. She created the test, then blamed me for failing it. I stood up and went to the kitchen because I couldn't sit still. The sink smelled like the dish soap she liked, and the sponge was still wet. My life had normal details, and my heart felt ripped. I'm not doing this, I said. I'm not competing with your past. She followed me, still sharp. If you loved me, you'd fight for me. That line is poison. Love is not measured by how well you tolerate disrespect. I didn't yell, I didn't slam anything. I just said, I love myself enough to not beg for a spot in my own relationship. Her eyes went wide and she went quiet. For a second, guilt flickered across her face. Then it vanished. She walked out of the room and said, "You're being dramatic." After she left for work, I did what my job trained me to do. I inspected. Not her phone, not her private life. I didn't hack anything. I didn't stalk. I checked what was already part of my life, the shared spaces, the open doors. Her work bag was on the entry bench, half unzipped. A folder stuck out, the kind with a clasp that accountants love. When she got home, she usually dumped papers there and forgot them. Inside was an expense packet. At first I thought it was about our townhouse deposit. Then I saw the itemized receipt from the restaurant. The total was high, way higher than a normal dinner, and the payment method wasn't our card. It was her firm card. Attached was a printed draft reimbursement note with a client code at the top. Under purpose of meeting, it said, prospect dinner, Ezra Varn, lighting design contract discussion. My hands went cold. That was the money proof, and it punched harder than the dinner itself. She didn't just humiliate me. She tried to write off our anniversary dinner as business, using her ex as the excuse. I took a photo of the page and put everything back exactly how I found it. I sat down and stared at the wall, hearing my own breath. My job has a rule. If you find a serious hazard, you don't keep riding the elevator and hope it holds. You red tag it, you stop it, you call it what it is. A practical advice moment number 3. If you share money with someone, keep your eyes open, not paranoid, just awake. Joint plans become joint damage fast, and paper does not lie the way people do. That night, Mara came home humming like she was resetting the mood. I grabbed us takeout, she said, like we were normal. I held up my phone with the photo. Why did you use your firm card for our anniversary dinner? She blinked. What are you talking about? The restaurant charge, I said, and the prospect note with Ezra's name. She laughed once, too quick. Oh my God, you went through my stuff. I kept my voice low. The folder was hanging out of your bag and you used your firm card. That affects our life. Her smile came back, sweet for half a second, then she snapped sharp again. It was easier that way, I'll fix it, it's not a crime. Why is Ezra listed as a prospect? I asked. She waved a hand. It's just wording. Accounting needs a reason. Don't be a Boy Scout. I stared at her. She, the CPA with rules like weather, calling me a Boy Scout for questioning fraud. She stepped closer and softened her tone like she was petting a wild animal. Listen, Ezra knows people. He does lighting for events. My firm wants new clients. This was smart. Smart, I repeated. She nodded. I combined things. I did what I had to do, and you could have handled dinner better. There was that flip again. Her mess became my flaw. I didn't argue more that night. I went upstairs, opened the closet, and started packing a bag. Our bedroom smelled like her shampoo and the cedar blocks she insisted on. I felt like I was packing out of a house that had already been sold. I didn't go to a hotel. I drove to a month-to-month sublet above a bike repair shop in Lambertville that my coworker told me about once. The room smelled like chain grease and old cardboard, and the radiator clicked like it was thinking too hard. It wasn't comfortable, but it was quiet. Mara kept texting. Mara, come home and talk. Mara, you're overreacting. Mara, Ezra isn't even answering me either. Mara, are you both trying to punish me? That last text made my jaw clench. She still saw it as a game. 2 men, 2 choices. Her scoreboard. The next day I checked our toll transponder statement because I was trying to cancel some shared bills. That's paperwork I am part of. It wasn't spying. It was my account too. I saw charges from a stretch of road that went nowhere near her firm. It went to a warehouse district in Trenton, near a rehearsal space complex. I stared at the dates. 2 weeks of late night trips. All the nights she told me she was staying late to close a quarterly file. That was the location proof, and it completed the triangle. Communication, money, location, all tied to the same story. She had been meeting Ezra before the anniversary dinner, planning the moment, setting the stage. I felt numb, but my mind was clear. That numbness is dangerous because it makes you want to do something stupid. People blow up accounts. They scream. They post. They burn everything down. I didn't want flames. I wanted an exit that didn't hurt me later, so I called a lawyer. His name was Dorian Pell, and he was in his late 60s with a calm face that looked carved out of stone. He told me to meet him late at a truck stop diner off Route 413. The booth vinyl was cracked, and the coffee tasted like it had been cooked yesterday and reheated by guilt. Dorian listened without interrupting, like he'd heard every kind of mess and mine was just one more file. When I finished, he said, "You don't win a contest you didn't enter, you leave it." That line landed like a clean hammer strike. He didn't lecture, he gave steps. "Separate what you can," he said. "Bank accounts, automatic payments, access codes you both use. Keep it legal and clean. Save your proof. Do not argue by text. Short sentences only." I nodded, and my hands finally stopped shaking. Dorian looked at me over his glasses. "And don't let embarrassment push you into revenge. Revenge is expensive." I went back to the sublet and did the boring work that saves your future. I removed her from the shared budgeting app. I changed the smart lock code because my name was on the lease, and she had already shown she liked control games. I updated the mailbox key schedule with the post office so our mail stopped bouncing between us like a grenade. I also emailed the townhouse contractor and paused the renovation deposit. That was brutal. It felt like burying something that was still alive, but I wasn't about to sign a new life with someone who treated love like a lineup. Mara showed up at the bike shop a day later, eyes bright with fake calm. She stood under the flickering hallway light and tried to smile. "Can we talk like adults now?" I didn't invite her in. I kept the door half closed. She sighed, sweet voice again. "I get it. I pushed too hard. I just needed certainty." I said, "You created uncertainty, then you blamed me for reacting." Her mouth tightened. "So what, you're done over one dinner?" I didn't answer that. I asked, "Why were you driving to that rehearsal warehouse at night?" She froze for a half second. That pause was a confession without words. "I don't know what you mean," she said. "I saw the toll charges," I replied, her face hardened. "So you're tracking me now, wow." "Ezra was right about you." She tried to hand me poison and call it medicine. That same night, the killer receipt arrived without me asking for it. My phone buzzed with a voice memo from Mara. It was only 10 seconds long. I tapped it, thinking it was meant for me. Her voice played, quick and excited, like she was whispering into her phone while walking. "I got them both coming. I'll pick tonight, and I can code the dinner as a prospect meal so it's basically free." Then the memo cut off. I sat on the edge of the bed in that greasy little room and stared at the wall. The radiator clicked. A motorcycle revved outside. My skin went cold. That audio clip was the big twist and the final nail. It wasn't love confusion. It was a plan. It was a performance. And she said basically free like my dignity had a discount code. I forwarded the memo to Dorian and wrote one line. "This just came in." He replied 5 minutes later. "Good. Do nothing tonight. Tomorrow we act." The next day, Dorian filed a clean notice ending our shared lease responsibilities and outlining how our joint expenses would be handled. He also told me something simple that I still repeat in my head. When someone treats your heart like a budget line, you stop funding it. We scheduled a meeting in a mediation-style conference room in Dorian's office. The room had a long table, a pitcher of water and fluorescent lights that made everyone look tired. Mara arrived in a neat coat, hair perfect, like she was there to win. This was confrontation 3, and it happened only after proof. She started with a smile. "So you're really doing this," she said. I stayed calm. "Yes." Dorian nodded once, silent. He was there like a guardrail. Mara leaned forward. "I did not do what you think I did." That was deny. I slid my phone across the table but didn't play anything yet. "Then explain the firm card and the prospect note." She exhaled and rolled her eyes. "Okay, yes, I used the firm card, but it's not a big deal." That was minimize. She took a sip of water like she was in control. It was one meal, everyone does it, you're acting like I robbed a bank. I kept my voice steady. You set up a choice between me and your ex on our anniversary. You expensed it, and you met him for weeks. Her cheeks flushed. She looked at Dorian like she wanted him to be impressed by her confidence. She lifted her chin. Fine, I'll admit part of it. That was partial admit. I did meet Ezra a few times. I needed to see if something was still there. I didn't want to marry you with doubts. I almost laughed, but it would have been cruel. She made the doubt, then acted brave for noticing it. Then she did the emotional move. Her eyes filled fast like she flipped a switch. I was scared, she said, voice cracking. You're so steady. It made me feel like my life was decided already. I needed to know I had a choice. Dorian's face didn't change. Mine didn't either. I said, you had a choice. You could have chosen respect. Dorian slid a paper across the table. And here's what happens next, he said, short and sharp. Mara blinked at the document. What is this? Dorian said. A notice and a summary of evidence in case your firm asks why a corporate card was used for a personal event. Her head snapped up. You wouldn't. I finally tapped my phone and played the voice memo. I got them both coming. I'll pick tonight, and I can code the dinner as a prospect meal so it's basically free. The room went silent except for the faint hum of the lights. Mara's face went pale. That's out of context. Dorian didn't move. It's very clear context. Mara grabbed at her coat sleeve like she was trying to hold herself together. You two are doing this together now, she said, desperate. You and Ezra, this is sick. I didn't raise my voice. Ezra isn't here. This isn't about him. This is about you turning my life into a test. She stood up fast, chair scraping. I loved you, she snapped. I said, no, you evaluated me. 2 days later, the consequences started rolling in like heavy doors. Mara's firm called her in for a compliance meeting after an internal audit flagged the restaurant charge and the prospect code. That part wasn't my doing. Her own paperwork did it. Ezra had also emailed the firm to remove himself from any prospect talk because he didn't want his name used in a false expense story. That was him abandoning her when consequences hit, and it fit his world perfectly. A man who builds lights for stages refuses to be used as a prop. Mara called me 12 times in one afternoon. I didn't pick up. Then she sent one last text. They're putting me on leave. Ezra told them. He betrayed me. I read it and felt nothing but a quiet click inside my chest. That click is what a red tag feels like in your hand. Final, not angry. Just done. A week later, a letter arrived at my new mailing address. It wasn't from Mara. It was from the renovation contractor confirming our deposit pause and the new schedule. It felt like a life I almost stepped into, now closed like a door. Mara's name started disappearing from local networking events. Her firm sent a bland email to clients announcing staffing changes. People talk in small towns. Shame doesn't need a microphone. It just needs time. 3 months passed. I kept working. Elevator inspections don't care about your heartbreak. Motors still whine. Cables still fray. People still step into boxes that lift them over open space and trust someone like me to keep them safe. I got promoted to senior inspector that summer. More responsibility, more sites, more long days, but the peace was real. I came home to a quiet room and felt my mind settle, like dust after a storm. Mara tried to reconnect with a social message on a professional networking app. One sentence. I miss you. Can we talk like humans? I didn't respond because here's the truth. When someone asks you to compete with their ex, they are telling you how they see you, not as a partner, as an option. A year later, I met someone new. Her name was Selene, and she was a library archivist in Frenchtown. She had a steady laugh and calm eyes, and she never tried to make me prove I deserved her. She asked questions and listened to the answers. Being with her felt like stepping onto solid ground after months of walking on loose boards. On a crisp fall evening, Selene and I stood by a riverside food truck near the Delaware Canal. The air smelled like fried onions and cold water, and leaves scraped along the pavement in small circles. She handed me my paper tray and smiled, simple and real. I looked at the river and felt my shoulders drop. When you spend your life inspecting lifts, you learn one thing fast. Trust is not a speech. Trust is what holds when the weight shifts, and when it doesn't, you red tag it and walk away. Thank you so much for watching the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe the channel.